At 26,000 feet above the plains of Canada, both engines of a Boeing 767 suddenly go silent. No thrust, no power, no control, just silence. Inside, 69 souls are trapped on a metal bird that has just turned into a 132-ton glider. At the controls, Captain Bob Pearson, a man about to attempt something no pilot has ever done before. This is the story of how Air Canada Flight 143 ran out of fuel mid-air, and how one man's experience flying gliders turned disaster into one of the most miraculous landings in aviation history. July 23, 1983, a warm summer day over central Canada. Air Canada Flight 143 is halfway through its trip from Montreal to Edmonton. On board, 61 passengers, 8 crew, and a brand new Boeing 767. One of them is Rick Dion, an Air Canada maintenance engineer. He's traveling with his wife and his young son, heading off on vacation. The captain that day is Bob Pearson, 48 years old, calm, confident, respected. 15,000 hours in the air. His first officer, Maurice Cantal, equally experienced. 7,000 hours of flight time. But there's something both men share. Very little experience with this brand new aircraft. The Boeing 767 is one of Air Canada's newest jets, only 150 hours old. So advanced it doesn't even need a flight engineer anymore. Everything is computerized, everything automatic. At least, that's what they thought. Halfway through the flight, a warning light flashes. Fuel pressure low, left engine. A few seconds later, another light, right engine. 2 fuel pumps, both showing low pressure. On a brand new plane, it seems impossible. The pilots check their instruments. The flight computer says they have plenty of fuel. And the digital fuel gauges, they're not working. Taken out of service before takeoff. The lights don't make sense, but what they don't know yet is that these warnings are not electrical failures. They're the first signs that their fuel tanks are almost empty. The second light stays on, then a third. Captain Pearson makes a call. They'll divert to Winnipeg. They're 120 miles away, close enough, he hopes. But then it happens. The left engine coughs, sputters, and dies. Moments later, the right engine fades out. At 26,000 feet, both engines have failed. The world's newest airliner has just become the world's heaviest glider. Air Canada Flight 143 is now gliding. No thrust, no hydraulics, no electrical power. And they're still 75 miles from the nearest major airport. Inside the cabin, flight attendants fight to keep passengers calm. Parents clutch their children. Some begin to write notes to loved ones. Down in air traffic control, the radar operator watches the plane's signal vanish. With both engines gone, the transponder shuts off. To radar, Flight 143 no longer exists. They are ghosts in the sky. Inside the cockpit, it's almost silent, only the whisper of air rushing over the wings. Then, a small propeller deploys from beneath the plane, the ram air turbine. It spins in the slipstream, giving them just enough hydraulic power to control the aircraft. But not enough to restart the engines. They're still gliding. Captain Pearson and First Officer Quintal calculate their glide ratio, how far they can travel for every 1,000 feet lost. It's not enough to make Winnipeg. Then Quintal remembers something, a small decommissioned airfield 20 miles closer, a place he trained years ago, Gimli Air Base. They decide to go for it. But they don't know that Gimli isn't an airbase anymore. It's been converted into a racetrack, and today is family day. There are campers, kids, and cars on the runway. And no one knows a jetliner is about to fall from the sky. 5 miles from Gimli, the plane is still too high. Normally, pilots would use flaps to slow down, but without hydraulic power, Pearson has none. He's coming in too steep, too fast. Then he remembers something from his gliding days, a maneuver called a side slip. You cross the controls, tilt the plane one way, rudder the other, and you fall sideways through the air, trading altitude for drag. It's never been done in a Boeing 767, but Pearson has no choice. He banks the jet hard left, pushing the rudder right. The giant airliner falls sideways through the sky. Inside, passengers feel the world tilt violently. Some scream, others pray. Then the runway appears, but it's not empty. Two children on bicycles are riding right down the middle. They don't hear it coming because the jet is completely silent. Pearson flares at the last second. The nose gear collapses, sparks fly. The plane skids down the strip, sliding to a halt. Inside the cabin, chaos turns to relief. They've made it. Against all odds, Captain Bob Pearson and his crew have done the impossible. They've landed a Boeing 767 with no engines, no power, and no lives lost. When investigators arrive, they find almost no fuel in the tanks, just 17 gallons. A plane that should have held 24,000. At first, they suspect a leak, but there's no sign of one. So if it didn't leak, it never had enough fuel to begin with. Investigators dig deeper. They find that the fuel gauges were inoperative, and the crew had calculated the amount manually, using math. But there was a catch. Air Canada had recently switched from imperial to metric. The plane's fuel was measured in kilograms. The ground crew calculated it in pounds. They gave the plane half the fuel it needed. That tiny error, a conversion mistake, nearly cost 69 lives. Captain Bob Pearson and First Officer Maurice Quintal were praised for their skill and quietly blamed for the confusion. But their flight changed aviation forever. Training was overhauled. Fuel systems redesigned, and Air Canada's fleet learned a new word, metric. In the simulator, other pilots tried to replicate what Pearson did. Every one of them crashed, but Pearson landed safely.
He
later said,
I now have the feeling that no matter what, as long as an aircraft stayed together, I would get it safely back on the ground.
2 days later, that same Boeing 767 took off again, and it still flies today under one name, the Gimli Glider.